Hi everyone, and welcome to the Gemini March 2022 Illumination reading. This is I Am Illuminated Tarot, a place for you to better connect with and illuminate your own personal spiritual importance. So hi everyone and welcome, especially to all of you who have never been to my channel before. My name is Lauren. So this reading is meant to help you find the meaning in the challenge or challenges you are currently experiencing, so that you can better help answer that why. Why am I having to go through this challenge? What is Spirit asking me to unlock about my path, my purpose, and my spiritual importance? And what am I going to better be able to understand about how that spiritual importance can be of service to the greater collective experience? Okay, so Gemini, I'm going to first pull a card here to take a look at the energy that you're sitting with internally for the month of March. And then we'll take a look at what's going on in your external environment and what is the why behind why Spirit right now is asking you to engage this internal energy with the external environment. And then we'll look at the blocks. What's preventing you? Ooh, okay, interesting cards here. So we have the Sun that came out. Oh, and the Queen of Wands. Okay, wow. All right, Gemini. So the Sun for your internal energy. What a beautiful card to have. This is the card of illumination. It is the card of when it comes up as in an internal energy like this is like somebody turned the lights on after the lights have been off for some time inside on a spiritual and emotional level. It's almost like when you wake up and you're like, oh, there I am. This is who I am. Oh my gosh. It's almost like waking up and seeing the world with fresh eyes. Like when we think of Dorothy going into the Wizard of Oz and seeing everything in Technicolor. There's a little bit of that feeling, but again, coming through from an internal level. Beautiful energy. And then we have the Page of Swords in your external environment, which is it's a card of fact-finding. It's a card of trying to gain context as to where your truth fits into the larger truth, if that makes sense, the collective truth. But it is one of fact-finding. It can actually be a card that represents spying as well. But for this reading's purpose, this is one of trying to understand. I feel that you guys, now that the lights are kind of coming on inside and you're starting to see yourself and you're starting to reconnect with who you are, that there's this element of kind of coming forward of, okay, well, where does this fit? Who am I now? And how can I figure out where my new perspective is going to actually engage in my external environment at this point? And the Queen of Wands is, again, one of my favorite cards. I probably say it all the time. But it is a card that reminds us of our own magic, that we are when I say the Magician, now the Magician is its own card in the tarot, but the Queen of Wands reminds us that the true magic lies in working from that deep connection to our eternal flame, to our wand, to our soul, the passion that comes when we allow our soul to connect almost unhindered or unbidden with our external environment. She has a sunflower here and she's sitting kind of in what looks like the middle of the desert. And this is a reminder that through our own magic, we can create even flowers in the middle of the desert. So there's something here about being reminded of your own personal magic in first kind of seeing yourself again with these fresh eyes and going out to see where that fits now so that you can remember the power that you have there's an element here of understanding how you can manipulate and manifest your own experience. Because the Queen of Wands, when she is reversed and upright, can be somebody who is dramatic, somebody who is manipulative. And here, obviously upright and standing in her power, this is the feeling of understanding how you can manipulate your experience, but in a beneficial way. All right, so Gemini, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull some cards now to take a look at the challenge that you're facing in really kind of understanding where you fit out there now. The challenge you face, and it can be scary sometimes when we kind of wake up and realize, oh my gosh, I haven't been standing in my power. I haven't really been utilizing myself to the highest potential. Or, holy cow, I didn't, when we think about the lights coming on, this can be jarring. It's almost like, and I don't assume all of you drink or go to bars, but it is kind of like that, where we think about, if you've ever been to a bar or a darkly lit place, and then suddenly you're talking to people, you have one perspective and perception of the environment, and then all of a sudden the lights are turned on and you're kind of blinded for a moment. And as you start to see what's going on around you, you start to kind of see a little bit sometimes of the things that have been neglected. You start to realize that, wow, this bar has probably seen better days. A lot of the furniture has wear and tear. People have spilled drinks all over the floor. The person you were talking to maybe isn't as attractive as you had thought. And it's one of those moments where you're like, oh man, I see the dust under the tables, and you start to see all the things you have been neglecting in your life, but on an internal level. So this is when you start to realize, like, wow, I haven't been paying attention to my own emotional health, or wow, I haven't been challenging myself on that mental level. I haven't been working with my passions. I remember that I used to like to do this, and I remember that I used to like to do that, but there's a little bit of this kind of blinding quality of like trying to gain your footing, trying to gain a perspective and an understanding almost of like, how did I get so disconnected from who I am? How did I let myself internally go for so long without kind of all of the cleanup and the wellness checks and all of that kind of thing? Because, okay, so what's coming up here? We have 4 of Pentacles as your main point of challenge. We have the 10 of Cups, 4 of Swords, Death, and the 7 of Wands. So 4 of Pentacles. 4 of Pentacles is a card that denotes kind of holding back, that we're at a place where we maybe have created somewhat of a safe, secure foundation in the physical, but we don't want to risk losing what we have, so we just kind of stay here. We're like, oh, this would be like where maybe perhaps you've been saving for a home, you're living in an apartment now, and you've been saving and saving, and you have that good little chunk of money, that nest egg, but now you're too afraid to actually go out and invest that money in buying a home. Even though you've been working your butt off and you've been trying and trying and trying, now you're like, wait, actually, I don't want to do that. Or this can be where maybe perhaps you have a job that you worked up to a certain level and you make X amount, and it's just enough to get by. But now you know you're not going to get more at that job maybe, but you know that you could make more in your position at another competing place of business. But that's a risk because I'm comfortable where I am, and I'm good with the money I make. I understand how much I work within, but this doesn't allow you to grow. And where this becomes a block is when you are holding. So if you notice, she has, in the traditional image of this 4 of Pentacles, it is a man who has a pentacle on his head, he has 2 pentacles under his feet, and he's holding 1 pentacle in front of his heart, his chest. And it's showing that he's blocking himself off physically from actually being able to receive love, to actually be able to receive emotional support and an emotional connection, and because he's so focused on hanging on to the little bit of security he has physically. And that's, I feel like, kind of where you're at right now, that there's this feeling of like, okay, the lights have come on, I see myself clearly, I'm kind of seeing life clearly again, but I don't want to lose this little bit of physical security that I have right now. And what's interesting is that right on the other side of this, we have the 10 of Cups, which is one of the most beautiful cards in the tarot. It is a card that denotes your ultimate heart's fulfillment manifested on an emotional level. This is the happy family card. This is everything. I like to look at this as your feeling of what it would feel like to experience your version of heaven on earth. And yet you're blocking yourself physically from actually leaning into allowing yourself to experience this. Now we have Four of Swords here in the middle. The Four of Swords is the card that Spirit's asking you to embrace to help kind of unlock the whole aspect of you understanding and stepping back into your personal, a place of personal power that stems from knowing that you have the ability and to manipulate and control your experience in the external environment. So the Four of Swords is one of rest and rejuvenation. It's where you get a chance to sit and stop and evaluate on a mental level, really, what are the kind of wounds of the past, the ghosts and the stories we carry with us that are not ours to carry. We in turn have this beautiful point to find our sword, to find our truth, in stopping to say, okay, you know, what are the stories that why am I afraid to let go in the physical? Is it because I was told as a child that I would never make over a certain amount of money, so I just have to cling to what I have now? Is it because I watched my parents go through a period of financial struggle, and so I don't ever want to basically copy what they did? I don't want to have to put myself in that vulnerable position. I don't want to invest in that business because I saw that their business failed. I don't want to buy that house because I watched what happened with my friends when the economy turned and they, were upside down on their mortgage. It's basically all those stories we carry with us that actually have nothing to do with our personal truth, that have nothing to do with our own personal clarity. And so there's this feeling here of being able to, the beautiful element of the Four of Swords is that the knight puts those three swords up on the wall, which are the three swords of heartache and wounds and the ghosts of the past, and he walks away. He gets up and he has just his sword. And I apologize, guys, I have something in the washer and it's knocking on the wall here. But so that's what you're being asked to embrace, is to really sit down in order to help you overcome this fear of letting go physically of something. That you take a look at why. Where does that stem from? And what stories are you stuck replaying in your head that have nothing to do with who you are, with nothing to do with your truth of what you're capable of? Because right on the other side of that, we have the card of death. Now, this doesn't mean that you're literally going to die or that somebody in your experience is going to die. This means that there is a understanding that in order for something to be transformed, that something has to die. When we think of that, the kind of the universal understanding that no matter is not lost, it's just reformed. And there is this kind of understanding coming through of that in that we have to release something, let something go in order for something new to come. And that's kind of the understanding here with the Four of Pentacles, is that when we are so tied to something physically, we forget that there are all these other aspects of our experience that are going on at the same time. And that, this is a little bit of kind of like the person who is so clinging to all of the money they've made in their life, and they're an 80-year-old person, and yet they've never enjoyed any of it. And the reality of it is, you can't take it with you when you go. You can't take what's in the physical with you when you go beyond this physical experience. So if you're not going to enjoy it in the moment, or you're not going to enjoy it in some capacity, then what's the purpose of clinging to it? What's the purpose of continuing to grow this? So there is this element of kind of understanding that in order for us to allow for this Ten of Cups to come into our life, we have to almost sacrifice something in the physical. We have to, it's almost like making an offering a little bit of, if this is truly something that you hold sacred to yourself, when you feel into whatever that feeling of like, oh my gosh, that is my ultimate heart's desire, my ultimate heart's fulfillment, that we have to give a little to that We have to sacrifice a little and hold that sacred. And when we do that, we allow whatever we're giving to that to be transformed so that you can then start moving towards this. Now, as your final place of challenge, we have the Seven of Wands. And this is where we are in a place kind of defensive energy, where we are holding up kind of our wand, our passion, and we are fending off others. But it's also a card where you get a chance to sit with spirit and reevaluate. Is it worth it for me to defend this to others? Is it worth it for me to keep taking action here, even though it seems like other people are not either happy with the action or don't support the action, or their actions are getting in direct conflict with the action that I'm taking? And with this as a challenge point, it's almost like it's time to understand that I think where you think there are others who are challenging you, or where you have to defend your own actions, you notice that it's just the wands. We don't actually see the people down there holding those wands. It's a little bit of this illusion energy around when we can get into that place where we feel like, but I have to do it this way. I have to hang on. I have to. And every time somebody brings up maybe this topic about like, so are you, getting ready to buy that house? And you're like, yeah, but like it can't be that house over there. It has to be here, and it has to be like this. And the person's like, well, I just wanted to ask you about the house you've been saving for. Are you ready to like put that money down? Yeah, but it's not the right time. Yeah, but I think this other person was trying to get me to buy here, and I don't want to get and it's like where we start to like. And Gemini, I know your energy well because I have a heavy Gemini placement in my Mercury and in my Venus sign, and I do have it in other aspects of my chart. So I understand the ability to kind of talk around and through and past something. And you really have that gift. And there is a little bit of that coming through here of like, let's just put the wand down. Let's just walk away. You're on higher ground already. Even if there are people down there with their wands ready to kind of like fight what you want to take action on, it's going to take them a while to actually be able to climb up there and get you anyways. And you could just walk away and be well on down your path before any of them can even maybe get up to argue a point with you or stop you from taking action. So there's really this feeling here of like, let's just stop with the defensiveness and allow yourself to take what you've already kind of gained for yourself in the physical and lean into investing and holding sacred this dream you have for yourself, and allow yourself to release those thoughts, those wounds, those things that keep haunting you from the past of others even, and allow yourself to take this new truth and to see what you can create with it. This is a really powerful message, Gemini. This is a month of like realization. That's really with the sun coming in. It's a moment of like, I think you're starting to realize where you've held yourself back based on these kind of fears of the past or what other people have told you. And it's like you see the glimmer, but you understand what has to be released. You understand that there is a transformation now that you're being asked to go through. And this might truly involve walking away from a long-term career, walking away from living in a specific place or in a specific way. This can be changing how we even think, what we hold of value in our mind, and changing that. But there's definitely a release, a breaking down, an understanding that something's being transformed in your life, and it's time to stop defending why you're not allowing that to happen. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull a card for the concept of curiosity, courage, and contemplation. And we're going to utilize the Triad of Engagement, which is the coaching tool that I utilize with working with these three principles to help you bring what is a very general message into more of an individualized message for you. So we're going to see with working with curiosity, we're going to see what spirit would like you to be curious and open to in the month of March. That's going to help bring awareness to some aspect of your experience that's going to help you overcome this challenge of not wanting to release something. So we have all tied up. number 23 breaking down to a number 5, which is the card of, the number of change. Now what's interesting is I just how these two cards are lining up here. I see her looking down at her, and there is this feeling coming through of she doesn't want to let go because she feels that she's restricted. She's like, yeah, but I can't do anything. I can't release anything, because if I do, then I'm going to be down a pentacle. And that's really what Spirit's asking to be curious about. Where are you telling yourself that you can't do something because kind of like your hands are tied? This would be like, well, I can't walk away from that job because I have an awesome, benefits package. And if I walk away from this job, I won't get the same benefits, even though technically you're getting underpaid at the job that you have. And if you were to go ahead and get a job with a competing company, you might make all of that money back in the benefits you're losing and then some. And this is what we have to realize sometimes, and that when we want to go towards a dream, we have to allow ourselves to lean into being curious about how much better something can be. When we're working with the 10 of Cups, this is your ultimate heart's fulfillment. And you're holding yourself back from that? No. So be curious about where you're telling yourself your hands are tied, and taking a look at, really, is that the case? Where do you feel your hands are tied? And allow yourself to be open to how Spirit's going to show you that if you simply change your perspective, you'll realize that those are pretty loose bindings. And the one thing I see here with this card, and I always notice it, is that she seems to be this magical being in a magical garden. There's these flying, they're like butterflies, but they almost look like other little flying creatures. And she's glowing and it looks pretty. And it's like she's in this beautiful kind of magical garden. She's like, yeah, I can't work with my magic. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? You're glowing. There's magical, sparkly butterflies around you. And she's like, yeah, no, I can't do it. And everybody's like, okay, yeah, whatever. And this is where I think a little bit of this energy is coming in. There's people telling you, yeah, you're worth so much more. You can do so much more. You're so much better. And you're like, no, I can't work with my magic. When in reality, she gets like, poof. And all of those restraints are gone. And that's, I think, really what Spirit's asking you to be curious about, is where are you holding yourself back from working with your magic and understanding you already have that magic within you. It's as easy as just making the decision to, like in the movie Frozen, just be your magical self in your own magical world. All right, so now I'm going to pull a card here for the concept of courage, and we're going to get a look at where Spirit would like you to be courageous in taking action for the month of March. Ooh, cards are a little talkative here. Okay, so we're thinking of really having the courage to take action. This is a theme or a message to keep in mind, that as you're kind of getting afraid or not wanting to take those action steps towards releasing something in the physical, this is what you're meant to keep in mind to give you that courage to do it. Take that action, make that investment, hold sacred the feeling of your ultimate heart's desire manifest. Okay, well, there's definitely a little bit of this coming through here. So it says surrender defensiveness. It says defensiveness is a sign of weakness. To communicate in a more empowered way, stay centered and hear someone out. Then offer a clear, non-defensive response. So there's something here when we're thinking about having the courage to take action, is to surrender the defensiveness. That's really your final block here, is being defensive, is trying to prevent others from showing you, holding up a mirror to yourself of where you're not using your own magic in your life. And when it says defensiveness is a sign of weakness, I don't think defensiveness is a sign of weakness. I actually think Defensiveness comes up when we hold something so sacred to ourselves, or we feel that something is so valuable that we don't want to see it hurt. We don't want to see it, we don't want to see our dream possibly not realized. We don't want to see that part of ourselves that we so want to have experienced in this life, that we don't want to open that up vulnerably to another to either laugh at or to maybe say it could be done better. And that's really where the defensiveness comes in. It's like, no, I want that, but I want to protect it. And really what you're being asked to realize is it's not about protecting anything. This is your life to live. It doesn't matter how somebody else sees something. But I really would say when it says, stay centered and hear someone out, then offer a clear, non-defensive response, this month, listen to where people are trying to show you where you're holding back. Listen to where people are trying to remind you of your own magic and you are pushing them away. You know, in a certain respect, you know, because we have kind of a lack of understanding, and I think really that's where this Page of Swords is coming from, trying to gain context and clarity as to where perhaps you're missing something in your life. When we think of the Seven of Wands here, we see this image, it's like these people down here could be actually standing there celebrating him and saying, yeah, we just saw that you leapt from a rock over here and you could fly, like do it again, like woohoo. And he's like, no, get away, I can't do it again, you know. And it's one of those things where you don't quite understand like what people are seeing in you and why if you feel like you have to keep defending something, it's because others are noticing a trend. Others are noticing something and they want you to step up and utilize this magic. They want to help support you. But you have to understand the truth now of what that is. What is your magic? What have you been kind of, now that the lights are turned on, what have you been missing? Okay. And now for a final point of contemplation, we are going to see what Spirit would like us to reflect on for the month of March. Kind of like the underlying message for this entire reading. Something to hold ourselves accountable to. So as we're taking action, what is the outcome of those actions? We're going to reflect and contemplate on that and hold those consequences up. Ooh, we have 3 cards to the messages here. So we have Starseed, what lights you up? We have Imrama, where are you being called to journey to? And we have Sisterhood of the Rose, beauty and devotion, priestess, mystic, teacher. Very interesting here. I love all 3 of these cards. So there is this little bit of kind of, again, this change. This, when we're talking about where are you being called to journey to, this is where you're going to answer that question. What is the 10 of Cups for you? What is the ultimate heart's fulfillment? When you just daydream about what you would love and wish and hope for yourself and what it would feel like to feel into entering that world. You know, I like to coach people on when they don't really have an idea of that, is to sit and meditate as to walking up to a closed door. And if you could, on the other side of that door, open it and a scene from your version of heaven was on the other side of that door, what would that be? And how would it feel as you walk into that experience and as you interact? Are there other people there? Is there a beautiful home you walk into? Is there a beautiful landscape? Are there friends and family? Are there magical beings? And it's about walking into that space and connecting with that feeling of just unbridled joy of like, this is mine to enjoy. I get to experience this. And that's what helps you start to clarify what is your 10 of Cups? What's on the other side? What would feel like success for you, that you achieved your ultimate dream? And that's really going to allow you to gain that clarity I think you're seeking now. And with the Starseed, what lights you up? This is where we're also kind of getting into this with the sun coming here. When we turn the lights on and we get a chance to see all of the cracks and crevices within ourselves, what is there? What is there what's the magic? Where's that magic wand that you haven't been using? That's where when the sun comes in, this is when we have that, it's basically like God touching us with the hand of the divine again to say, remember your eternal flame. Remember that you have a soul. Remember that there is something within you that lights you up. And what is that? And then we have Sisterhood of the Rose, with beauty and devotion, priestess, mystic, teacher. There's a feeling here of that devotion, like what I was saying here. When we hold something sacred, we have to sacrifice something. And that is a part of devotion. That is part of when we understand being a priestess. When we think about the high priestess being in a temple, people are coming to bring something as a point of, whether it's money or whether it's flowers or whether it's something that denotes the understanding of holding something sacred and what it is worth to them. There's also this feeling of the teacher coming through, that perhaps some of you have that quality, that ability to teach, which is a very important quality. And perhaps there is a little bit of that maybe this is part of your magic, but it could be utilized in a way that maybe you're not seeing. To be able to teach others doesn't mean that you have to literally be a teacher in a university or a elementary school. This is something where we can become teachers in our place of work. We can become teachers through doing like what I'm doing right now, where we can teach from a place of personal experience. But there is something about that coming through with that, aside from the devotion piece, is there something that you can teach to others? Is there something that is being illuminated here that is meant to have a greater purpose out there? But you're not going to know and discover that greater purpose and to understand and see where it can be of greater use and service until you start to release something and start to kind of get the energy moving towards that, until you let something go. And that's really what you're being asked to face here, is letting something go, surrendering the defensiveness, leaning into getting clear on what that feeling is that you're moving towards. What is your heart's fulfillment? And then remembering you have the magic to get there and to manifest it. All right, Gemini, I hope you all have a wonderful March, an illuminating March for sure. And if you would like to illuminate your own personal spiritual importance and to see how it can be of service to yourself and others, you can click on the link in the description box below to book a personal reading or a one-on-one coaching session. And I'll be releasing the mid-month monthlies around the 15th. And if I don't see you until April, have a wonderfully loving and illuminating March. Bye, Gemini.